Hey everyone, it's Miss Sauer. We are coming to you on Monday, April 27th. We are looking at Unit 10 still, but we are now on Week 3. This will be the last week in Unit 10. I'm going to start today with a review concept from a unit we covered earlier in the year before closure. It's going to be very important to Week 3's concepts. So as you know, every day we go through either the alphabet chant or you're pointing at sounds and asking your child to say the sounds. But there are some specific sounds here that I want to point out, and they're your glued sounds. Now, glued sounds can also be called a welded sound, depending on who your teacher is. I like calling it a glued sound because I can put these fun little pictures with it, and sometimes that helps make it a little stickier for our kids. I'm so sorry about that joke. In a glued sound, each letter does keep its individual sound, but when we're talking, our voices tend to glue those sounds together very, very tightly. So here are some examples. We're looking at all, am, an, ang, ing, ong, ank, ink, onk, onk. We have been covering these for a very large portion of the year, so a lot of our kids will be familiar with them, but it is always great to review. So before you go on with the rest of the lesson, pause and have your child either do the alphabet chant or point to some cards and ask them what the sound is. Definitely put the focus on these glued sounds today. Remember, a glued sound, although each letter does keep its individual sound, our mouth tends to glue them together. They're very sticky sounds. Now, here are some of the most popular ones, the NG glued sounds. I've put some word examples up there for you to practice. When we are coding these words or spelling them and we mark them, we mark glued sounds in a box. I always tell kids it's almost like this is the bottle of glue. You're going to put all the letters in there together as they stick together. So pause the video and go ahead and read through each word. These words were fang, rang, ring, thing, long, song, lung. Here's another popular group, the NK glued sounds. The NK glued sounds are a little less popular than the NG ones, but they do still pop up a lot in our language, especially for first graders. Pause the video and take some time to read through these words. Okay, we have bank, thank, pink, sink, honk, thunk, skunk. All right, so I know it seems pretty easy, these glued sounds. Of course, there is a catch, as there is with all things. One of the things that is very difficult for the children when spelling words with glued sounds is that letter N in the middle of some of these glued sounds. Let me take you back a couple slides. NK, NG. Students so frequently leave out that letter N because it's harder to hear. If we were to finger spell the word ring, like what's in front of us, ing, the students are so unlikely to hear this, and so they end up actually hearing ig, rig, and they'll put R-I-G, completely neglecting that N sound. So that's one of the reasons we teach glued sounds as a whole unit of sound. If we can remind them that that sound ing is shown with an N in the middle, it might be a little easier for them to remember. Another thing that's tricky about glued sounds is students will say, well, I know a glued sound goes in a box, but isn't NG a blend? And they're right about that. And they can mark it as a blend if they want to. Some of my students will also say, isn't this letter I a closed syllable? It's short. Shouldn't I put this mark of a brev over it? And they're right about that too. What I tell kids in my class is when you see a glued sound, the more important thing to me is that you put a box around it. But if you can also add in those extra things like ending blends or a closed syllable, then you can do that too. Now, if you're in Miss Sauer and Miss Azarano's class, this assignment is waiting for you on Seesaw. You can head right there, but I am going to explain instructions. So I am going to ask that if you're working at home, that you grab a piece of paper and just pull the words with glued sounds out and write them down. So for example, this word here, sang, jot it down on a piece of paper. Long, songs, jot those down on a piece of paper. I think it would be kind of cool to make you copy all of these sentences. However, you should pause the video to read each sentence. So go ahead and do that now. Pause the video, read each sentence. Now that you're back, remember to write down the glued sound words that you find in every sentence. And if you are in Miss Sauer and Miss Azarano's class, it's time to head to Seesaw to do your assignment. I hope today has been helpful. Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone.